Nobody believed in Mexico. Not really. Not even the people who wanted to. And then, in the space of about 2 weeks, this team went from a national punchline to 90 minutes away from the biggest story of the entire World Cup. This is the story of how Mexico almost changed everything. But here's what nobody's telling you. Buried in this run is a coincidence so exact, so impossible, that when you find it, you'll swear someone wrote this story before it happened. The same score, the same stadium, 40 years apart. And if fate really did write this script decades in advance, why did it change the ending? Stay with me, because by the end of this, you're going to look at this Mexico team completely differently. To understand how impossible this sounded, you have to go back to what came before. Mexico was hosting the World Cup for a record third time after 1970 and 1986. On paper, that should have been the good news. A nation that loves this game more than almost anywhere on Earth, finally getting the stage back. Instead, they walked in under a cloud, still carrying the weight of what happened in Qatar. Qatar, 2022, group stage exit. First time in over 40 years Mexico didn't make it out. Martino gone within days, and what came after was almost worse than the result itself. Coca, 4 months, 7 games, fired. Lozano wins a Gold Cup, still doesn't survive a year. Aguirre, brought back for a third time to clean up a mess that wasn't fully his to begin with. Along the way came a 4-0 humiliation against Uruguay, a friendly that should have meant nothing and somehow meant everything. Mexican media tore the team apart. Fans openly questioned whether this squad had any business hosting a World Cup at all. Then, the Copa America, the summer of 2024, 36 shots, 1 goal, 2.8%. Statistically, one of the worst finishing performances anyone had seen at that level on one of the biggest stages football has. And that tournament ended the way it always seemed to for this generation of players. A penalty given, then taken away. Mexico were awarded a spot kick against Ecuador. The referee pointed to the spot, and then VAR pulled him back to the monitor and reversed it, a corner instead. The match finished 0-0. Mexico were eliminated in the group stage, the 4th time in 5 Copa America appearances. That was the resume Mexico carried into their own World Cup. 3 managers in under 2 years. A 4-0 friendly loss that still got brought up constantly. A Copa America exit built on missed chances, and a penalty that vanished in front of their own fans. Nobody believed in this team. Why would they? And then the tournament actually started. Estadio Azteca, newly rebuilt for the occasion. Mexico's opener against South Africa didn't just make headlines, it made history before it even finished. 3 red cards, the most ever shown in a World Cup opening match, breaking a record that had stood since Cameroon's opener back in 1990. Mexico won it anyway, 2-0. Quiñones, Jimenez, and somewhere in the second half of that very first match, a substitute walked onto a World Cup pitch for Mexico for the very first time. 17 years old, the youngest player to ever appear for Mexico at a World Cup. Nobody outside Mexico knew his name yet. They would. His name was Gilberto Mora, and by the end of this story, it would mean something very different. South Korea, 1-0. Czechia, 3-0. For the first time in their entire history, Mexico won every single group stage match without conceding a single goal. A perfect 9 points, a clean sheet in all 3 matches. Not a nervy, backs-against-the-wall survival, a statement. For the first time in years, Mexico weren't just surviving a World Cup, they were becoming one of its stories. And underneath all of it sat a number that mattered more than any scoreline. Mexico hadn't lost a World Cup match at the Azteca in over 50 years. A streak dating back to 1970, back before most of these players' parents were even born. If you're the kind of person who wants the stories other channels won't tell you, the ones buried under stat sheets and forgotten headlines, this is exactly what you're here for. Stick around. It's about to get a lot bigger. Then came the round of 32, Ecuador. On paper, it's just a scoreline, but it broke a drought that had stood for exactly 40 years. Because the last time Mexico won a World Cup knockout match before that night was 1986. Same stadium against Bulgaria. The exact same score, 2-0. Roberto Alvarado threaded him through in the 22nd minute. Julian Quiñones drove into the box and rifled it into the near post. 9 minutes later, Raúl Jiménez doubled the lead, and the Azteca came apart with noise. And in that same match, 17-year-old Gilberto Mora started, not just appeared, started, becoming the second youngest player in World Cup history to start a knockout match. The only player younger was Pelé in 1958. The gap between them? 20 days. 20 days separating a teenager from Mexico and one of the greatest players football has ever produced. The numbers kept stacking up around him. Quiñones became only the second Mexican player ever to record a goal and an assist in the same World Cup knockout match, joining Manuel Negrete's legendary performance against Bulgaria in 1986 in this exact stadium. His tournament total matched Luis Hernandez's Mexican record for direct goal contributions in a single World Cup, set back in '98. One goal now stood between him and the all-time Mexican scoring record. This wasn't a team riding emotion and home advantage anymore. This was a team with a teenager doing things only Pelé had done before him, a front line rewriting the record books in real time, and a fan base that had spent years bracing for heartbreak, finally letting itself believe. Then came England, the round of 16. Close to 90,000 people inside Estadio Azteca expecting to carry Mexico into their first World Cup quarterfinal in 40 years. This was the match. Everything before it had been building toward this one night. It started well enough, but 36 minutes in, Jude Bellingham rises above everyone, meets a cross from Bukayo Saka, 1-0. 2 minutes later, he does it again, off a low ball across from Harry Kane, 2-0. The loudest stadium in the tournament goes almost completely silent. But Mexico didn't fold. Right before halftime, England failed to properly clear a free kick, and Julian Quiñones is there to strike it home, 2-1, his fourth goal of the tournament. And it did more than cut the deficit. It tied him with Luis Hernandez and Chicharito Hernández for the most World Cup goals ever scored by a Mexican player. The record he'd been one goal shy of all tournament, he now shared. The Azteca goes back into the second half, still believing. Early in that second half, England's Jurrell Quansah is sent off for a reckless challenge. For a moment, it looks like Mexico's night. It doesn't stay that way. Down to 10 men, England still find a way forward. Harry Kane converts a penalty in the 60th minute, 3-1. 9 minutes later, Kane fouls Brian Gutierrez in the box at the other end. Raúl Jiménez steps up himself, buries it, 3-2. From there, Mexico lays siege, wave after wave, the crowd roaring on every single cross into the box. 90,000 voices trying to will one more goal into existence. It never quite breaks through. England hold on, 3-2. And with it comes something that hadn't happened in over 50 years. Mexico's first ever World Cup loss inside Estadio Azteca. Remember that coincidence I promised you at the start? Here it is. 40 years ago, at this exact stadium, Mexico beat Bulgaria 2-0 and broke through into the knockout rounds for the first time in a generation. This year, at this exact stadium, Mexico beat Ecuador 2-0 and broke through again 40 years later, almost to the day. Same score, same ground, same story, replaying itself down to the number. It's the kind of detail that makes you wonder if some stories really are written before they happen. A 17-year-old doing what only Pelé had done, a forward matching a 30-year-old scoring record in the very match that ended the run, a fortress that hadn't fallen in 50 years, finally falling, but only after almost pulling off the impossible twice against a full-strength England side. If fate really did write the first half of this story decades ago, it left the ending unfinished, on purpose. Because here's the thing about this Mexico team. The teenager built like the present instead of a promise. The forward who tied Mexico's all-time World Cup scoring record with the biggest goal of his career. The 50-year fortress at the Azteca that had never once fallen in a World Cup until the one night it mattered most. None of that was an accident. And none of it disappeared the moment the final whistle blew. A team that goes from 2.8% shooting and 3 fired managers to twice cutting a 2-goal deficit back to 1 against England doesn't need luck to explain what it did. It needed belief. And for the first time in a long time, Mexico finally had the football to back it up. The dream didn't come true, but it almost did. And almost, for a team that had spent years being told not to bother believing at all, was still the loudest statement Mexican football has made in decades. Because the ghost of 1986 didn't just visit Mexico this summer, it showed them exactly how close they already were to writing a new one.